skip has arrived, so it's time to do some damage. And the first job of the day is to remove the metal off the top of the garage, and they're kept in with bolts all the way across, so it's going to be quite the challenge getting this off. So the ceiling is off, and it's really interesting to see the structural side of how they built this, and it's a bit baffling in places. Got some metal coming out here which is obviously supporting this beam that's going across, and I've got these rafters that are going across here, which is what the ceiling was attached to. Then above the rafters you've got another piece of wood, and then on top of that are more rafters which are keeping the roof on, supporting the roof. And in between is a gap of about this much. So I'm at a total loss as to what these two beams here are doing. They are supporting the lower rafters, but that only had the ceiling on it, and that was really thin plywood, which is on the floor here now. So yeah, it's a total bafflement as to why they're on there, whether or not they're a structural side to stop the walls from moving, caving in or whatever when they were putting their roof on. I have no idea. But yes, it's quite interesting looking at this, and it's making me rethink what I'm going to be doing structurally wise on here. I was planning on having a flat ceiling on here, and I was going to raise all of the walls up. However, I don't know whether I actually need to do so. Once I can get my head around these beams, whether or not they actually need to be here or not, and how they've actually constructed everything at the back, there may be a way where I can actually have my ceiling in here without actually raising the roofs, and that would be fantastic. Yeah, all good fun. And that's the garage door removed and ready for the block work. And it's taken a couple of days, but the block work is finally up. Made a start on it yesterday lunchtime, got it finished at about 2 o'clock this afternoon, so that's all good. First time I've ever done block work. I'm really pleased with how it's come out, but this is all going to be clad. I've contacted the company about making me a couple of windows to go in there, and also the door for the side, so just waiting to hear back from them. Now the next job is to remove the roof and get that all replaced. Now the ceiling, that's all been gone obviously, but the actual roof on top, I've removed the tin panels or corrugated iron panels that are on top of that, so it's just the felted roofs on there. Now all the materials for that are arriving on Friday. However, the weather's supposed to be changing, so whether or not I'm going to be able to get that done is another matter. So it might be the middle of next week before I'm able to make a start on the roof. Now stepping into the new Lego room, so these beams of wood that are just down here, they are for the framework. It's going to be going all the way around the garage, and inside the framework is going to be the insulation, the Celotex, which is going to help to keep the warmth in the room and the cold out, hopefully. But yeah, there it is. The ceiling's all gone, which is nice. So I can't wait to get this all ripped down, and that's when I'm going to really feel like I'm making some serious progress with the room. But yeah, there it is. Anyway, I thought I'd just show you the latest with the Lego room. It's a slow process, and as I said in a little while ago, I was hoping to have a builder come in and do this, but it's been mission impossible trying to find somebody, so I am doing it myself. And like with the block work, a builder would probably done that in a few hours, where it took me probably about 8 or 9 hours because I've never done it before. But plus side, saving me money, which means it's more money for Lego. And here we are back in the Lego room, and I've decided I want to make a start on these two sections just here. The slopes, which I've made them inverted, I need to work out how I'm going to get a nice smooth finish on the top of them, but also how I'm going to be attaching them to each of the floors. So I'm going to pull those sections down to the table, and let's get started. And a little bit of progress has been made here. I've tiled off the cooling parts here using the curved tiles that are the same size as the rounded plates below it. Put some tiles on all of the studs that are exposed, and also changed over these 4x4 plates with the modified plates to give it that nice smooth finish. Now here I've put a 2x2 jumper plate, and what I'm doing is I'm going to be tiling all of this section just here. So I'll have one of the angled parts there, and what I'm doing is using one of these tiles which has got the hole in the centre of it. Now I'm sure that this is going to be deemed an illegal building technique, but then what I'm doing is I'm going to clip the two together. Now on the reverse side of this, I've put some snot bricks, and they're the ones which have got the 4 studs on them. And then I'm just putting these different curved slopes, some cheese wedges, and I'll brick all of this section out to give it a nice smooth finish. I want to leave a couple of studs exposed, and that'll be just so that I can put the finer details on there further down the line, but these two clip together quite nicely. Let's try and do it one-handed. So that will go on like so, and I think it's going to be the perfect way of doing it. Now, one thing I am getting very low on are these pieces here, the 33-degree slopes. I'm hoping I've got enough to get this entire floor done. What I will have to do is the section where the next floor sits on, I'm going to have to raise it up just a little bit because I don't want it to be sitting inside of this section. I'm not sure I'm going to have enough pieces to do the floor below, but at least I've come up with a technique here that I think is going to give it a nice polished look. So I'm going to carry on building that up, get that all finished, and I'll check back in and show you what it looks like once I've done so. And there we have the curved slope all in place, and I'm really happy with the end result of that. I think it's come out really well. Due to having tiles on every stud on the edge of this section just here, it just gives you the seamless gap there, which is exactly what I was after. Now on the top, again, I've used a snot technique on here to hide all of the anti-studs on there, and used some snot bricks, some 45-degree angles just to fill the gaps in. And in that hole just there, you can fit a 2x plate. 2x tile, so again that hides that hole there. Now on this part here, these are using the inverted tiles, which are these pieces just here, so that's worked out well. One thing is though, this floor here is 2 studs too wide in both directions, so I now need to build up the floor inside there so that can sit on there nicely. So that's the next job I'm going to concentrate on doing, and then once I've done that, I'll check back in, show you what it looks like, and we'll decide what part we're going to work on next. I've made a couple of amendments to the top area here. I've raised this up by 2 plates, and the reason for that is when you were looking from the side or from this direction, so if you called it from an angle, all you could see was the holes in the back of the bricks or the plates. So by raising it up by 2 plates, although it is very slightly higher than the bricks here, all you can see is that black line down there, which I think just looks a little bit tidier. I've also amended this section just here. So on here you can see there's a 45-degree brick, or 45-degree slope, sorry, then a brick, and then a couple of plates. I've now got, it says a 1x1 brick, and then the 45-degree slope, and then the 2 plates. And then that's just enabled me to have a little bit of a channel in there. And then what I've done, I've made this section just here, which is one of the pillars that sticks out. And this is one of the Technic pins, which has got the axle on the other end, which is going into the 2 plates. And then that just fits in there nicely and slots into one of the anti-studs on there. So that's on there nice and firm. Now I'm sure that's an illegal building technique once again, however it is doing the job perfectly, and I think with something like this you have got to have a few of those illegal techniques in there somewhere. But anyway, now that I've got that on there, really happy with how that's looking, I'm going to build the other 3 to go around there, and then that's that part pretty much finished. And there are the 4 pillars all in place on that part, and really liking how this is coming together. One thing I do think though is this section here isn't quite tall enough and needs to be at least 2 bricks higher up. So I'm just going to break it off halfway up, add another row of bricks in, 1 more row of windows, and then put it all back together and see how it looks. And hopefully it's going to look more in proportion to how it looks in the source material. Once I've worked out that that is correct, I can then start doing the pillars that come out similar to this on the next part up, and then it'll be onto the circular building that goes on top of that. And here is the start of the next floor up, and it's coming on quite nicely. It's been a couple of challenges along the way. It's mainly trying to get everything fitting in here, looking symmetrical and keeping to the style and the patterns that I've already been using. For example, with windows, I want the beam in the middle there to be 1 brick wide. So I've had to go over to using some snot bricks there, as the window section is 7 studs wide. And I want to be dead center of the build. Now with these parts on the side here, to try and keep it curved as possible, I'm using the same sloped pieces as well, the same sloped curves, which are these pieces just here. However, I can't really use the 45-degree slope there. Previously I was attaching this to the end of that slope, but it just comes out a fraction more, as the height of a brick is a little bit more than the width of a brick. So I've decided I'm just going to experiment. I've used the snot bricks as I've got here, and I'm going to put some cheese wedges on the front just to keep the curve going, and hopefully it's going to look right once it's all done. Now I've got enough of the snot bricks to do all of the pillars around here, so I get all that built up, but I am extremely low on the black bricks. I need to get more of those off the big brick wall, and also the same with the window pieces. I run out of these ones here once again, so fingers crossed next time I go to Dublin they'll still be on the big brick wall. But anyway, let's carry on building this up and see how much more of it I can get built, and hopefully I'll get a better idea of whether or not this is going to look right once it's all finished. I've tried two different techniques on the corner section here on the snot bricks. One is with the cheese wedges attached to a plate, and on the other side here it's just purely the cheese wedges, and I'm not feeling like I've got the curve on here as it would normally be had I used the 45-degree slope. So I'm just going to experiment with one other piece, which is this part here, and it will mean that I'm going to need to move the snot brick back a fraction, and I've just prototyped it just down here, and I do think that that's going to give me a much better look on the corners. So I'm just going to modify both those sections and see how it comes out. And I think that's looking a lot better. I think I might amend this top section just here eventually, but for the time being I'm just going to leave that as is till I can work out what piece will look better in there. Next thing I'm going to do is get the curved slopes that go around the corners here and attach those onto it the same as I did on the previous floor and see how that all looks. And there is the slope inverted onto the build there, and it's not quite as steep as it shows in the source material, so I might experiment a little bit more with that in the coming weeks, but for the time being I think it's looking really good. Anyway, let's put all these sections of the building back together and see how it's now looking. And there is the top section all in place, and I'm really liking how this is all coming together. I think once I put the section on there, which is a larger version of that, I think it's really going to start to make the build look a little bit more complete. But at least I know that I'm going in the right direction with the techniques. I feel like I want to make this a little bit bigger, possibly by about 4 bricks or so, just so it's more in proportion to the section below as it is in the concept art or the graphic novel that I saw the picture in. But the top section, which I think is a viewing platform of some description, I think that's going to be quite the challenge. But you have a good think about how I'm going to design that and go about it. But yeah, there it is. Anyway, that's all we've got time for this week. I'm not sure how much building I'm going to get done over the next week on Lego, as the materials, as I mentioned before, are going to be arriving soon. So next week I'm going to be flat out working on the new Lego studio. But if I do get any spare time due to rain and things like that, then I will carry on doing some more work on this build or other parts of Gotham City. Anyway, hope you've enjoyed the update. If you have, please remember to give us a big thumbs up. If you haven't already done so, please consider subscribing to the channel and hit the notification bell so you don't miss any future content on the channel. And if you know anybody else you think would be interested in building Gotham or building Mandalore, if you could share the channel with them, I'd really appreciate it. Anyway, thanks for popping by, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.